Unfortunately, I do not have a picture of Sarab, but I never forgot what her eyes looked like when I first saw her. They were big, dark brown eyes with long black lashes. Her eyes were glazed over and lashes clumped together represented the tears she had shed. Her eyes portrayed a deep, deep sadness. As they rolled down her cheeks, she was reminded of how those same tears were once shed out of happiness after surviving the war in Iraq. Tears that reminded her of the excitement she felt when marrying an Arab American who rescued her and brought her to the United States, a place of safety, freedom, and opportunity. But all of a sudden, the same eyes that were once wide and open, envisioning the American dream, were now seeing a life of domestic violence shelter. These eyes were reading a list of rules and regulations. Strangers has tossed her away. Documents that were vital if she wanted the support of the shelter. Unable to communicate the language and unable to communicate. No husband, no family, no friend, no support. She had never felt so alone. The tears on her cheeks were now tears of pain and suffering, a painful reminder of her dreams shattered.
أنفها الصغير الذي كان أشبه بأنف أدمية بريئة، والذي كانت تتأمل أن تستنشق من خلاله هواء الحرية بدلاً من رائحة الدم والبارود التي اعتادت عليها منذ الطفولة. تلك الطفولة المتعبة والمؤلمة والمثقلة بالهموم قادت للأسف إلى مرحلة بلوغ أكثر سراباً وإيلاما، وحملت في طياتها المظلمة أقسى وأمر التجارب التي ممكن أن يحتملها إنسان. كل نفس من أنفاسها الموجوعة أصبح يحمل معه هواء الندم والأسى للتواجد في مكان غريب معزول لا وجود فيه ليد تمتد لتقديم المساعدة والإنقاذ.
Her lips were a feature that had grown accustomed to staying sealed. Raised in a country where they rarely parted, she was a woman who had much to say, but was suffocated by the silence. She had hopes that her voice would be heard, and the American dream would provide that for her. Lips that were created to express oneself, ideas, and desires were once again silenced by the force of her husband's hands. She was once again silenced by the threats given to her by these shelters for non-compliance. I ask you, how is one to comply when one does not understand? Her smile was unlike a child's, which expressed a genuine happiness. No. Her smile was a facade, one of defeat and surrender. We had let her down.
I remember Sarab's ears. Her ears were once exposed, eager to listen and absorb the sounds of freedom. However, these sounds of support and empowerment were a mirage. These same ears were now covered by her hair. She grew exhausted from listening to idealistic solutions that were unhelpful in healing her wounds. These wounds were deepened and reinforced by the injustices and lack of support that she continued to experience. Her needs were reasonable, yet essential to her success as a Middle Eastern domestic violence victim. But she hid her ears to stop listening. Go to court and file a restraining order. Here's a newspaper. Find a job and apply. Go to these interviews alone and empower yourself. Call the immigration attorney and make an appointment to file an application. I ask you, how can she do all of these things when she could not speak English? How can she do all of these things without the knowledge of the transportation system? How can she do all of these things when she is in a foreign environment, terrified and unfamiliar with the customs, rules, and culture of America? What good are all of these resources if she is unable to access or understand them? What good are all of these resources if she was thrown into the lion's den and expected to survive on her own? Every year, hundreds of immigrant women attempt to seek services in hopes to escape the cycle of violence. Due to the lack of culturally competent services in San Diego, we further isolate these victims and push them back into the cycle. However, Sarab's case is unique. She was not only forced back into the cycle, she was obligated to go back to her home country in Iraq. Back to a place of silence, fear, violence, and possible death. We may have lost Sarab, but there are many more Sarabs waiting for the proper support and empowerment to help pursue the American dream. So, I ask you, as a community, what went wrong? How could we have turned Sarab's mirage into a reality?